It has become a tradition in Studio 4 to start our year with a visit from the vivacious Georgia Nicols. She is considered one of the best astrologers circling around. She is also a syndicated columnist and author of a well-thumbed book about you and your future. It is my pleasure to welcome Georgia Nicols back to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And apparently, according to you, it's going to be not a bad year, 2012.
Well, it's not that crazy year that everybody's afraid of. I don't know how, of course I know it's the origin of it was the Mayan calendar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That we're all gone on December 21, 11/11?
Yes, I'm definitely telling people not to run up their debt and counting on like checking out that way because it'll be very sad next year. When you say, is it a better year or a worse year? I mean, that's just sort of a general thing, but I'll tell you what, it's a better year for Canada. So Canada is going to, and I mentioned this in my introduction in this particular piece here.
Yes, I read it. You said rosy.
Yes, what it is every one of us, and of course a country has a chart, a city has a chart, people have charts. This talk has a chart, by the way.
It does?
Yeah, in other words, a chart is just a mathematical representation for a time, longitude and latitude that takes place, and interpreting it according to astrology, right?
So before you got on the ferry from Bowen Island this morning, did you look at the chart?
I should have. I mean, the insanity, right? Did I tell you that everything came out of my medicine cabinet, fell into the sink, glass breaking, and I just like moved on, like left it there. It's still there. And no, I had a sort of insane time. And then you make the ferry, right? And then now it's just all very calm, even though it's, because the 6:30 ferry there can be an overload.
Yes.
So you've got to get there by 6. So I had my breakfast with me and ate it in the car. You know.
Great. And you had your makeup with you and all of that.
I
Lucky
did all
we
of
have
that,
makeup artists
stopped
here
in Horseshoe
too.
Bay
But
and
you know,
went into
some days you
Starbucks,
just have those starts.
It's crazy. And normally I don't, by the way. But of course, normally I don't leave the house every morning.
That too.
Right, I go to work in my robe, yeah. So Canada, I just wanted to say, is all of our charts, they move 1 degree a year, and therefore you get what is called a progress chart. And the progress chart is like an overlay over you. Your original chart's always there, but like a gel, like an Andy Warhol, you know, with Marilyn Monroe, or you know, so each of those Marilyn Monroe shots is Marilyn Monroe, but you can't say that the red is the same as the yellow. It isn't, because it's a different color, right?
Sure.
So Canada just this year moves into a new sign, and it becomes Sagittarius rising. So the last time I had a shift was at the end of the Trudeau area in 1980, and it has become, Canada is a nice guy country with Libra rising. You know, of course we are, right?
Of course.
But in the last 30 years,
gentler.
We have been a progressed Scorpio, so getting tougher and tougher and changing our image in the world. And that is a fact. People have been writing about that, right? But this year, we change our image again for the next 30 years, and we appear, I'm not going to say that we will be, but we appear to be affluent. We will appear to be a country that everybody wants to come to. We will appear to be rich. Of course, we have our better banking system, right?
So, but in spite of the Euro crisis and what's going on in Greece and Italy and all of that, and in the United States and the subprime and all of that, we seem to be a little gleamier, do we?
Yes, and we definitely look good. And this isn't a flash in the pan thing. This is for the next 30 years. So somehow Canada is looking good.
Okay, and we hope you're right.
I hope so too. It would also mean good for even the country, the countryside, the environment, and things like that.
Sure, there's kind of a mood in a country, isn't
I'd say
there?
That,
There's a mood in a day, a mood.
Definitely. Yeah.
So good to be here, and nice to see you. However, that full moon in the last couple of days wreaked a little havoc at our house.
And what happened?
I guess. You don't want to know.
Oh, we don't want to know, especially since the camera's going.
I'll tell you later. Okay.
Well, the full moon peaked last night at 11:30, right here in Vancouver, or in BC. And this full moon is the only one all year in Cancer. And the moon rules Cancer. So the moon is now full in its own sign. So everybody's feeling kind of vaguely funny. And I felt it, and I wasn't even aware of it. I started feeling it Friday. But I have my moon in Cancer in my own chart, by the way. But I was just feeling kind of wistful and sort of
a little anxious.
Yes.
Who am
anxious. Yes.
Why am I here?
Close to that. Who am I and what am I doing on this planet?
Yes. And where am I going?
Yes.
What does the future hold?
Yeah, I had a lot of that actually.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You think it's connected to the full moon or just this particular
no,
full moon?
this particular full moon. Every full
Okay.
moon is different because it happens in a different sign. Each full moon takes place in a different sign.
Do most people sleep when there's a full moon?
I think many people don't sleep when there's a full moon. I think a lot of it affects their, because the full moon affects our emotions and they get more and more sort of intense up until it peaks, and it peaked last night. So I would say that prior to last night, some people weren't sleeping. Not everybody, but I know for a fact, I've heard people say, and even myself, I've noticed it.
I know, I had a house guest. He was up at 4 in the morning poaching an egg.
Yeah.
And we don't have like a lot of doors in my house. And I thought,
What's
is going
going
on
on?
in the kitchen at 4 a.m.? So there.
Right.
Okay. Lucky days. How do you determine astrologically if somebody is having a lucky day, an Aries, a Pisces, or whatever? What does that mean?
It's actually quite simple, and it's funny, we're talking about the moon. In a year, the sun goes through the 12 signs, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, etc., right? In a month, the moon goes through the 12 signs. And every 2.5 days, the moon changes from Aries to Taurus to Gemini, Cancer, and so on. When the moon is in the same sign as your sun, and you, for example, are Libra, right? So when the moon is in Libra, or the person behind me I know is in Aries, and so
Yes.
when the moon is in Aries, those are your lucky days.
Oh.
The sun and the moon is receptive, right? And your sun is you trying to do things. Well, suddenly the energy is receptive to you, if you will.
I see. And is the moon female related or male related, or
It's
does
very-
it matter?
Well, symbolically, anyhow, the moon is very female, and the male is, and the sun is sort of a intellectual, more aggressive energy.
Yeah, old
directed.
man's sun.
Right.
Something like that.
Speaking of which, I think a lot of people think that astrologers think that the planets affect us. I don't believe that for a minute. Well, that would be ludicrous to think Mars is affecting us or Jupiter. I just speak that way, and I will even today. I'll say, oh, Mars is here, and so.
Right.
But that's just how we talk, because that's just based on math. But the sun and the moon do affect us. So the sun affects our activities. So, for example, at 4 in the afternoon tomorrow, there will be more people driving on the streets than 4 in the morning, right? And that's because of the sun. So the sun affects our activities. When the sun is shining, we generally go to school, we go to work.
Sure.
Not everybody, but
No.
it affects our
But
activities.
not many people I know go to work at 4 in the morning.
Right, but a few poached eggs.
Yes, huffy poached eggs. That's true.
Right, but the moon affects our emotions. There was this guy, Dr. Frank Brown, you can Google this, he did this test where he took oysters from the coast of New York on Long Island, and they open with the high tide, and he brought them in hermetically sealed tanks to Chicago, to his Evanston, Illinois, and watched them. And for the first 2 weeks, they opened up when the tide was happening back in New York. But after 2 weeks, they opened up right there in Chicago as if the ocean came as far as Chicago and the tide would be there. So he realized it had nothing to do with the ocean. They were clued into
Right.
the moon. So if a little oyster can feel the moon,
Exactly.
we sure can.
Or a little oyster can make a pearl. It's a
yeah.
strange world we live in. I don't know if an oyster makes a pearl on the moon or off the moon, but perhaps we can determine that. So, air, earth, fire, water signs.
Right.
The differences. Air means...
Air is very intellectual, talky-talky. And air people, that's why when they get to know each other, they right away want to compare, like, oh, you saw that movie, you love that book, oh my
Okay.
God, we're meant for each other,
So
right?
that's
that
like,
it's information.
airs are what? Libra?
Oh, the air is Libra, let me think, I'd say Libra, Aquarius, Gemini, and, well, that's 3, that's it. It is,
Okay.
because, the 3 air signs.
I know
Libra,
this
Aquarius,
isn't
and
a
Gemini.
tough question.
Yes,
I know
yes,
you
right.
know the answer.
Uh-huh.
And earth signs grounded?
Earth is very grounded. Me gusta mucho. Okay.
Like the Capricorn.
Taurus, Capricorn, and Virgo. But they're all 3 different. Taurus is really more the creature comforts. Virgo is grounded more in a sort of organized way. And Capricorn is grounded in a sort of a tough way. No pain, no gain.
I see.
Hey, this is character building.
I see. Well, you know, Kate Middleton, the Duchess, she's turning 30 today, and she's a Capricorn, obviously.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
And she landed that prince.
Capricorns really care about having prestige. They
I
care about
see.
their good reputation.
Well, She landed in the butter. So did he. Fire signs?
Fire signs are dynamic, they move a lot and are active. Well, of course, all signs can be active, but the fire is all about, let's say in romance, it's the gesture, doing something. Whereas with an earth, you know, they just want you to know you're there.
Okay,
right?
so fire would be Aries?
Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So they're very moving and they can be competitive and they're quite active. You can sense fire people.
We're talking sun signs.
Yes, sun signs.
Okay, and
yeah.
water signs.
Water signs, very
Do they
receptive and
flow?
emotional. Yeah, they're very emotional. They sort of stand and kind of grok each other. Right.
Gotcha.
Okay. So that would be Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And again, Cancer is more, I don't know, in the kitchen. Can I feed? Yeah, like you know, they're emotionally, but they're touching. Scorpio is like scrutinizing you, right? They're very intense, and Pisces is just sort of picking up your vibes. I'm being a little glib here. I am being glib.
But it's okay.
But
it's allowed.
Yeah,
Because I think, didn't you take acting?
I did. Yes.
I read that somewhere, and I don't
Yeah.
think I knew that about you,
Yes.
that you have a thespian background.
I do. My MA is in theater and film, yes.
Yeah, theater
Yeah.
and film. And
Yeah.
when did astrology grab you? When did you
Actually,
think this actually makes
when I
sense
was a
to
kid.
me? Oh.
I grew up in a small town. Nobody talked about it. Nobody, certainly not in my school, my family, the church, nothing. And I read about it in the newspaper and was intrigued. So I only know that because I think back now and I go, I can remember when I was 12 years old, I knew the signs of my neighbors and everything. Why? Nobody else was talking about it. I've always been intrigued. To me, it was secret knowledge.
Me too. Me too. That's why you're here. When we come back, we'll go through the signs, and we'll decide. Like if you have a sun sign and then you have a moon rising and all of that, it means something, doesn't it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, we don't have time to do that,
No.
but we do have time to troll through the sun signs.
The sun signs, absolutely.
Okay, Georgia Nicols, our guest astrologer extraordinaire. You and your future next.